tonight. This is our day, this is our place. Playing to win, face to face. We didn't come this far, didn't fight this long. No turning back until we take it all. Let's go! Yeah! You can't stop us, you can't stop us now! Yeah! You can't stop us, you can't stop, let's go! Yeah! You can't stop us, you can't stop us now! Yeah! You can't stop us, you can't stop us! We're going to war, but keep your eye on the prize. With your fist in the air, not making it out alive. This is our day, this is our place. Playing to win, face to face. We didn't come this far, didn't fight this long. No turning back until we take it all. Let's go! Yeah! You can't stop us, you can't stop us now! Yeah! You can't stop us, you can't stop, let's go! Yeah! You can't stop us, you can't stop us now! Yeah! You can't stop us, you can't stop us now! You can't stop us. I've waited my whole life for this day to come. All this sweat and tears and these hours of blood. And this is my time now. I ain't turning back. We ain't come for one thing. And now you're under attack. You're under attack! You're under attack! You're under attack! Let's go! Yeah! You can't stop us, you can't stop us now! Yeah! You can't stop us, you can't stop, let's go! Yeah! You can't stop us, you can't stop us now! Yeah! You can't stop us, you can't stop us! Under attack! You can't stop us, you can't stop us! Under attack! You can't stop us, you can't stop us!
Okay, why are the podcasts not working, for God's sakes?
The Jericho Network on Westwood One.
Talk is Jericho, baby. Talk is Jericho. Talk is Jericho, mama. Talk is me.
All right, welcome to Talk is Jericho. It's the pot of thunder and rock and roll. And thanks to today's sponsors, Arm & Hammer's new cloud control cat litter, DDP Yoga, Indeed.com, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, and O'Reilly Auto Parts. And today it's a return to the rock with Fozzy. High school bands. School of Rock, High School Confidential. Rich Ward, Frank Fonserate, Billy Gray sit down to talk music. But this time it's all about our high school bands. Fozzy's not the first band for any of us, and you'll hear how we all got started. The first cover songs we learned, the first gigs we played, the first real songs we wrote, some of the ridiculous and short-lived band names that we had, And then you can hear how all that turned into Fozzy. And then our spring tour coincidentally starts in May 15th in Greenville, South Carolina at the Firmament. May 16th, Greensboro, North Carolina at Cone Denim. Nita Strauss opens both of those shows. May 17th, Virginia Beach at the Lunatic Luau. May 18th at the MMRBQ in Camden, New Jersey at the BB&T Pavilion. Then we go July 12th, Mansfield, Ohio at Incarceration. And then this fall, we're headed out west, Unleashed in the West, as we built a tour around our opening slot at the Stadium Show, Bank of California Stadium in Los Angeles, supporting Iron Maiden. And that's on September 14th, but we'll be on the road starting September 5th in Denver, Colorado Springs, Grand Junction, Colorado, Salt Lake City, Crystal Bay, Nevada, San Francisco, Sacramento, Las Vegas, San Diego, Tempe, Los Angeles, Tucson, El Paso, Dallas, Houston, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and we finish September 28th in Atlanta, Georgia at the Masquerade. All ticket info at FozzyRock.com. You can also buy tickets to our exclusive, special, amazing VIP meet and greet. We do it before each show, one of the best in the business. We do a mini set of originals and covers. We take pictures, we take requests, sign autographs, kiss babies, and shake hands. Come hang with Fozzy right now at FozzyRock.com for all ticket and VIP information. And thanks to all the great sponsors here on Talk is Jericho that make us possible here, including O'Reilly Auto Parts. Trust the friendly, knowledgeable parts professionals at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Our professionals know what it takes to get the job done right. Professional technicians have counted on O'Reilly Auto Parts for years. Come see for yourself. O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. All right, so here we are in Berlin on a day off, big Fozzy tour. Everything's been going great. And the other day we were having a conversation, and Frank, our drummer, came up with the idea of doing a show about our high school bands.
Yep. You said it was my first good idea in 20 years.
So it's the core members of Fozzy, Frank, Rich, and Billy, and myself. And I think that's a pretty good idea. And I guess maybe just start with you, Frank. When did you start playing drums?
I started playing drums when I was 10. I actually started off on guitar, oddly enough.
Really?
Yeah, and we see how well that went. And
Just like Alex Van Halen.
yeah, I wanted a guitar, and I was given a guitar, and I started taking lessons, and I never took to it. It just didn't feel natural. I mean, like, holding it and posing in the mirror felt perfectly natural, you know, but actually trying to play it, and I was taking lessons with this guy who was this old man who, you know, probably, you know, was playing for a bebop band in the 40s or something, and I just remember he would hold my fingers on the strings. He said, "You got to build up calluses on your fingers, see?" And he had a glass eye, by the way. And
He was Bugs Bunny's nemesis.
yeah, he was. And he said, you have to, you know, he would show me how to finger a chord, and he's like, you got to press really hard on the string so you'll get calluses like this. And he would take his thumb and like press on my finger like super hard on the fretboard. I'm like, ow. And I'm like, this is supposed to be fun, you know? I hated my teachers, so I gave that up. And so then I decided, I don't want to be a guitar player. I want to be a drummer. And then my mom said, well, we bought you a guitar, you didn't really like it, so let's just get you a drum and see how you do with that. And she just bought me like a little snare drum on a stand with a pair of sticks, and as soon as I had the sticks in my hand, I just wouldn't stop, you know. It's like, okay, I guess you like the drums. And so
Hold on a second.
yeah, exactly.
So, okay, so I'll just kind of throw myself in there. So when I was in junior high school, actually before that, I think elementary school.
Wow, that's early.
Yeah, early. I decided I wanted to be a guitar player because I was a big fan of music, as you know, Beatles and whatever. So there was a place at the end of the street in Winnipeg called Kent's Music. And when I went into Kent's Music, that guy also had a glass eye. He was a Scottish guy. He'll pay you dues. He'll pay you some money. $15 a lesson. Whatever he would say, but he had one weird eye going left.
Yeah, what's
And I
with
remember
that?
there was a big poster of Jerry Mercer of April Wine on the wall at Kent's Music. I don't know why.
There you go.
And so Brad was my guitar teacher. And Brad was this kind of a weird guy, kind of had Malcolm Young hair. And he wore, I remember, like red long johns as pants. And I would always have to learn like Irish washerwoman, which is bing, 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 bing. And so I learned that one week, and he's like, "Hey, man, this sucks. Why don't you why don't we learn something? Like, what do you want to learn? Like, what do you like? I like Def Leppard." He goes, "Okay." Then he charted Photograph for me, and he charted "Start Me Up" by the Stones, because he went to Minneapolis to see the Stones in '81 on the Tattoo You tour, and then he charted "Paranoid." And I remember I was like, I just found out, like, the song doesn't even have the title Paranoid in it. And he's like, what do you expect it's going to be? Paranoid, paranoid, I am paranoid. So I later gave up the guitar and made the very smart move to take up the tuba in grade 7, where you could take guitar band, and I went into the tuba, and I kind of got straight from my rock and roll roots. But
Little known fact, tuba, very popular with the chicks.
Along with the red long johns.
And one last thing. So this guy, Brad, he was in a band in Winnipeg called the Crash Test Dummies. Move forward 13 years later. So that guy, Brad Roberts, was my old guitar teacher.
Oh,
Huge.
He was huge.
Yeah.
He was so big that Weird Al Yankovic even did a parody of his song.
That's when you know you.
That's when
made
you're
it.
huge. You have made it. The caveat of it is I played a celebrity hockey game in 2000 at the Garden, and he was singing the national anthem. I went up to him and said, "Hey, Chris Jericho, WWE used to be my guitar teacher." He just totally shunned me, just walked away.
Whoa.
He just went, yeah, and just walked away. I even heard him go, yeah, and walk away. yeah.
And
So, Billy, how'd you start playing guitar?
I played ice hockey up until the point of about 11, and always liked Kiss, even like during kindergarten and all those grades up until, I started playing guitar. Anyway, I got
Please tell me that your hockey coach had a glass eye.
after I slapped a slap shot at him.
Okay.
So I had a babysitter whose son played guitar. He had an Aria Pro 2 Les Paul copy with a PV stack. I saw him playing Long Time by Boston. And I really got into it. My dad had a guitar in the closet all the time as a kid, so I broke out the guitar, asked my mom if I could take lessons, and the guy started teaching me. And he recommended a teacher in Charlotte who was Tim Murray, and he taught me "Stairway to Heaven." That was my first. Wow,
It's a hard song.
Oh, dude.
Through the beginning. He picked that song because it had a lot of elements. It had all the finger picking stuff. It had bar chords, and then he taught me the solo. So
Right off the bat?
Right off the bat. Wow. And he would do like Frank did. He would press my fingers on the strings. He would do all that. And
That's why you were killer when you were young.
Yeah.
Holy mackerel.
and by the time I finished that solo and the song, I always look forward to going to lessons to this guy.
Right.
So
Because it had to be fun.
it was fun,
when you had somebody that
dude,
could
and
make
he
it
was
fun, that's
always
what it was all
very
about.
he was, "Oh man, you're doing good. Let's go to this part. Let's go to this part." So helps with the confidence.
Right.
So by the time I learned the song, my favorite teacher says, "Oh, well, I'm going to New York. I'm going to be moving to New York, but there's going to be another teacher teaching you, and he's going to be really good, and you're going to enjoy it, and it's going to be great." So the next teacher comes in, and he wants to teach me like Mary Had a Little Lamb type stuff, and I'm just kind of disinterested in it. So I would bring him Van Halen songs, and he would be just flustered with it. He'd be like, "Oh, well, this is flashy. This is very flashy. I brought him Spirit of the Radio. Oh, well, you need a wah-wah pedal to do this." Finally started, kind of learning on my own by slowing tape down back in the day, and moved on from there.
You would slow the tape down.
Yeah,
That's how you figured
my
it out.
dad had a little mini cassette player, and it had a button that would slow it down to half speed.
Oh.
And I would record off of another cassette player with that, slow it down on the mini cassette player, and learn the just really slow notes, but learn how to play it.
Yeah. Rich Ward is going to tell us how he got started on guitar. But first, I want to tell you why my three cats, Mr. Mittens, Snickers, and Indy, are loving our new house. Well, at least Snickers and Indy are. Mr. Mittens having a bit of a tantrum, not happy, not really using the litter box as much as he should. And I wish he would, because I'm sure he would love their new kitty litter as much as Snickers and Indy do. It's Arm & Hammer's new Cloud Control cat litter. Everyone in my family has to clean the litter boxes, myself included, and it's not the best time, to say the least. But thanks to Arm & Hammer's new cloud control litter, none of us are complaining about cleaning the litter boxes, and that's because there's no cloud of nasties when we scoop. Arm & Hammer's cloud control litter is 100% dust-free, free of heavy perfumes, also helps reduce airborne dander from scooping. So what happens in the litter box stays in the litter box. New cloud control cat litter by Arm & Hammer. More power to you. Rich, how did you start playing guitar?
I lived in kind of a hip downtown area. This was back when living in downtown meant you lived in crappy, rundown homes. Like, everyone was moving to the suburbs in the early 80s. That was the trend. So all the homes kind of downtown were kind of where the poor people lived, which is where the ward residents hailed from. And I remember one day I was walking to the park where me and my friends kind of meet to play soccer or throw frisbee or whatever, and I heard someone playing guitar really loud, like from the sidewalk, and I just wandered up to this house, and the door was open, and I kind of peeked in, and it was just a 12-year-old kid, and I will never forget this guy who looked like he was probably could have been in Foghat, big mustache, super long hair, stoner guy, and his name was Boyd Albritton. I will never forget it.
That's a hell of a handle.
I know, man. He had a wall of amplifiers and a bunch of guitars, and it was the first time. I loved rock music. I loved all, I was listening to all the hard rock and heavy metal that I could consume based on what was on the radio and what my friends were into, but I always thought that was like, you could never do it. I finally saw somebody who was a regular guy who went to work every day on a construction site, and he played guitar, and he sounded great, and it was loud, it was amazing. That was when it first kind of clicked that, oh, well, maybe I can play guitar too, because if Boyd Albritton can play guitar, and he lives in my neighborhood, because I thought it was only it's like being an astronaut. Well, if you're gonna be an astronaut, I'm gonna have to move to Houston or something and go to the moon. So a friend of mine in the neighborhood and I went in together, and we bought a guitar so we could share it. So we would get it on alternate days. So I would get it, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays.
Like a child in a divorce.
Correct. Because independently we couldn't afford a guitar. And then eventually my dad bought me a 1966 Fender Mustang from a pawn shop, which seems cool now. But back then, in 1979, the 66 Mustang, it looked like a bow. The neck was so warped on it. But we would just do what everybody did that I knew, which was that you would listen to the records and you'd try to figure it out.
Yeah.
You just and you'd have a circle of friends that we helped, like a support group. Hey, do you know how to play Looks That Kill? Do you know how to play Paranoid? And everyone would kind of share what they kind of learned. And the great tie between Billy Gray and myself, how we kind of knew each other. There was a family called the Gill Brothers.
Yeah.
And the Gill Brothers were amazing musicians.
Yes.
And I was friends with the Gills, and so was Billy. But Billy and I didn't know each other, but we both knew the Gills. Now, the Gills could play Rush covers. They were badass.
They were the illegitimate sons or brothers of Rush back then.
Yes, they were. They were a three-piece family band. Bass, guitar,
they were
drums.
awesome.
Perfect.
And they were badass. And I learned a lot from them. I would go over, and Kevin Gill was the guitar player, and I would learn from him. Then I learned from Sean Gilly, who we both knew. And I would go up to Reliable Music in Charlotte, which is where all the young musicians hung out, and try to get the guys who worked at the music store. You try to watch them and what they learned. And I took lessons like all of us talking. But I don't know that any of that really helped that much, other than some basic fundamentals like you would if you went to coach baseball or something.
Until you're actually playing it, none of us, Paul McCartney on down are really musicians that can read charts and stuff like that. And that's one thing that always kind of was boring about guitar lessons, which is why I think I went to tuba, because I was bored just playing Irish Washerwoman all the time. But there was a high school or a junior high school battle of the bands, and the band that played was called Elixir Frenzy, which is still that's still a cool name for 1985. And I remember the guitar player's name was Garth Kwasnitsa, which I still don't know how to spell that. And I always tried because I just thought, like, what a cool name. And the other guy in the band, I might be getting this wrong, but there was another great player called Rod Makovic, who I think now is like a classical guy, but he was like the Randy Rhoads. Both those guys were great. And one of their bands, I'll say it was Elixir Frenzy, they played Flying High Again. And they had candles, like a candelabra, on stage at the junior high school talent show. And that's when I was like, oh my God, this tuba sucks. Like I want to be like Elixir Frenzy.
Do you remember what grade you would have been in? What year?
It was just crossing over into grade 8, I believe. So 7 is 83, so probably 1983. So Flying High Again was like the new Ozzy record at the time, because it was before Market the Moon came out.
That's so crazy that you say that, because that was one of my next big epiphanies as well, was the high school battle of the bands. I was in 7th grade, or maybe it was a talent show. I don't remember what it was.
Something like that.
Yes, but there was a group of 9th graders in my junior high. I was in 7th, and they played Jesse's Girl. And I just remember looking at these people who were not that much older than me.
Right,
They
like
were
you
in a
said, they're
band.
guys that you knew in a band.
I was like, how is this? They're playing songs.
Right, solos.
Went through the same thing.
Yeah. Who was your guy, Frank? Did you see any band in high school or anything that made you decide to want to start being in a band?
Well, I mean, no, I wanted to be in a band, you know, right? Like the first time I saw Kiss on TV, I wanted to be in a band, you know, and
But to actually find the guys, right?
Did it seem, though, to you, did it seem that, like, for me, it seemed like it was impossible. Like, when I see Kiss, they're in a band, it's like, that's not, I mean...
Yeah, but you don't know them.
Right.
But I guess it was like, for me, like to go to, let's say, I don't know, Dallas. I don't know where Dallas is. I know nothing about Dallas, but once like, there was Calgary wrestling, I know how to get to Calgary.
Right.
I can go there and be a
When you
wrestler.
saw the junior high band, it clicked because you said, I can do this.
I
Did
know
you
those
have
guys.
that moment?
No, I didn't really, because I didn't have that kind of sense of impossibility. I was always like, you know, where do I sign up? You know, is like I thought it's entirely possible, and I actually thought it was like my destiny, you know, and so
You had one of those parents who's like, you can do anything you want. Jericho and I just got cigarette butts flicked at us.
No, but I guess I probably got more encouragement from my parents or my mom. But no, I just never had that sense. It was just like, yeah, as soon as I started playing drums, it just beating around on a snare drum, I was like, this is for me. And I was never in a band in high school. And this is going to sound really arrogant. I don't mean it this way, but I could never. First of all, I didn't go to I didn't really go to like a musician's high school, you know. So there weren't a lot of musicians that I knew of in high school, you know. I mean, a lot of people liked music and everything, but not a lot of people played. And the only people who played weren't either very good or very serious about it. They just wanted to fool around, you know. And I was dead serious, man. It was like, I got to be famous by the time I'm 18. I'm serious about this. It's like, I got to find guys who want to do this. And so I wasn't actually in a band until I was out of high school. The first time I ever remember playing with another musician, though, there was a guy who lived not far down the street from me when I was probably about 12, maybe 11 or 12, and I'd been playing drums for like a year or a year and a half, that I found out played guitar. But he played kind of, you know, he played like a big hollow body, you know, and played kind of jangly guitar, you know, but I didn't care. It was like, can I jam with you, you know? And he let me actually bring my drums over to his house and set up like in his living room or whatever, and we actually jammed. And I think he played like the riff for Sweet Home Alabama or something, you know, and Frank went, and I just started going, you know, just going crazy. I probably drove the poor guy nuts, you know, because I probably played entirely too fast and busy and everything, but it was the first time I actually like made music, you know, like with another person. But yeah, like my first actual band that was like a guitar player, a bass player, and a singer or whatever wasn't until actually I was out of high school. I couldn't find anybody in high school that was worth playing with.
How about you, Billy? Did you ever see any bands when you were in high school that made you junior
I
high?
did. It was actually junior high school, and I was coming out of elementary school, going into junior high, and all my friends were older. They were already in the junior high school, and they had already told these guys they were Brian and Patrick Butler. They had a band called U.S. Metal.
U.S. Metal.
Right, you remember the name? Yeah, and so, you know, going into junior high school, oh, you play guitar too, you know? We'll let you come over. We'll let you come over and check us out practicing. So I went over and saw them play, and they were playing Crazy Train and stuff like that. And you know, one thing led to another, and I played my 8th grade talent show. We played. We were called Disciples of the Watch, and we had no vocalists.
That's
but
pre-testament too.
yeah, and we still got out there. We played "Looks That Kill" and "Ain't Talking About Love" by Van Halen, and like I said, no singer, but you know, the girls were screaming, and it was, you know,
My
a
first
rock
band
and
had
roll
no singer
show.
either, yeah. No
Well,
singer.
Well, that's how it started, and I had that same thing. I got a great story to tell you guys about No Singer after. But so as we start to morph into a band, so when I saw Elixir Frenzy, out of nowhere, my dad grew up with this guy called Al Ahoff, and they were friends throughout childhood. So we were always family friends. There's 2 brothers, Kevin Ahoff and Ryan Ahoff. And Kevin one day is like, you know, I play guitar. And I remember he had this red Stratocaster ripoff for like 3 years. He never got a new guitar, but he was one of those guys that like you, Billy, at 13 or 14 years old, could play like Crazy Train, but didn't really want to play it. He was a Maiden guy, Metallica, and he was into all these obscure metal bands. So I remember he came over one day, and my cousin was this guy called Ray Gilby, and he had an autograph from Paul Stanley. He married my cousin. It was in a frame. It said, "To Ray, rock on, Paul Stanley," with a star.
Wow.
And I thought, Ray Gilby, he's kind of a short, fat, bald guy. If you're listening, Ray, you know you are. But I thought Ray was the coolest guy, and he had a Paul McCartney Hofner ripoff, like Paul McCartney's violin bass, with the strings were so long they were hanging off the side. And I asked him if I could borrow it to start messing around. And Kevin Ahoff came over. I said, "Yo, I play bass. Well, I play guitar." And so he taught me a song. And the first song I ever made music to with another musician, which coincidentally, I didn't even think about it, is a song by a band called Trouble, called Revelation, Life or Death, which I think I might be the only person on the planet whose first song was a obscure Trouble song with 5 or 6 tempo changes,
Wow.
which is why I'm so weird that way. And then the other song we played was Peter Gunn theme. But I still remember Trouble and No Singer. Bow, 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 bow. That's guitar now. Here's my part. Boom, boom, then I just go boom, and then I'm supposed to go. And dude, I listened to that cassette about 100 times. That was the beginning of like the rock and roll playing with somebody.
That was one of the things when we were talking before. That was what made me think of this. Is like I wanted to ask everybody, what was the first song you ever played as part of a band? Like, you know, even though your band didn't have a singer, my first band didn't have a singer. The first gig we did, but still, it was guitar, bass, and drums, and we played songs. So that was your.
We didn't have drums. It was the making music with another human being.
Uh-huh.
The first one was the guitar and bass only. Trouble, Revelation, Life or Death.
And what was yours, Bill?
Disciples of the Watch.
Yeah, but what was the first song you guys ever played, like as a performance?
Looks to Kill and Ain't Talking About Love as a performance.
That wasn't a performance for us. That's just 2 guys in the basement
Oh,
jamming.
okay.
And we rehearsed those before we
Okay,
did it
gotcha.
after school every day.
I tried out for a band. I knew a group of guys that I heard needed a guitar player, and I tried out for the band, and they said, "Yeah, we need a singer. Maybe do you know the lyrics to these songs?" Like, I literally, the first band I ever tried out for on guitar, I didn't get the job, but they said I knew the lyrics to a few of these songs, so I was the singer for a heavy metal band at a pool party my 7th grade year, going into the 8th grade. But it was a great moment of realization that
Did you have a name?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It wasn't my band. It was a group of dudes playing because it was a pool party, one of those pickup things. But I really started practicing at that point because I didn't get the gig. You know, the first rejection it was rough. And so I really started practicing, and but it was, I mean, I sang really terribly, I'm sure. All the classics, Maiden, Priest, yeah.
But see, that's the thing, is that you started, like Frank, you said you didn't have this, but once me and Ahoff started playing, then you find out there's other guys in school that play.
Yes.
And, you know, some guys, I remember there was a guy called Dale Martin. He had like this wicked kit. And I don't know if he plays or not still, but at the time he was the guy because he had like a double.
He had like the kit with the most drums.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
matter how good the kit was.
but the most drums of the same brand.
And the same color.
Was it the
Yeah.
bastardized?
No, it was
yeah.
a thick. He got like a
One
Tama.
yellow one, one red one green one.
Yeah, a double kick drum Tama set, and that was my first official band. It was called Fatal Accident, which was spelled
Of course. Of course. Of course.
DENT, accident.
Accident.
And people were like, "Is it Fatal Accident?" No, it's Fatal Accident. Well, why don't you do AXADNT? Then there is like Fatal Accident. Accident. And then of course you draw the logo with the big, the hangman's axe.
But you've always been that way, though.
Yeah.
It's always about connecting, like wordplay and imagery and stuff. So that's carried on.
And that was in '85 because I remember it's like Fatal Accident. This is Fatal.
Did Fatal Accident ever gig? Did
We
you ever?
played one gig at a party, and that might be my official
First
thing
gig.
that you
Okay,
said.
tell me the songs.
But it was, hold on, it was like that movie, That Thing You Do. Where have you ever seen That Thing You Do? Where they're called The Wonders.
Yeah.
Just spelled O-N-E.
So everything's
D-R,
the
Needers.
Needers,
So they
yeah.
thought we were Fatal Accident. It's accident, it's accident. So what I remember playing is two things. I remember we played Heavens on Fire, because I still know that on bass. Bomb, 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 bomb.
That's a hard one.
Bum, bum. Yeah. And then the other one, I don't know why we were doing this, and I didn't know the song, but I tried to learn it, was Before the Dawn by Judas Priest. And we had this guy called David Birds singing, and he choked. There's, I don't know, 5 people at the party, maybe 10. It wasn't like a big movie party. And I remember he was like, Before the Dawn. And people were laughing. So we kicked him out of the band during the gig.
During the gig.
And they're like, who's gonna sing? I was like,
That
"I'll-"
is strong.
And so they're like, who's gonna sing the last song of the set? Holy Diver. And I'm like, I'll sing it. Meanwhile, playing and singing has not nor ever will be my thing. So not only am I screwing up the bass line, which I hardly knew either, I didn't even know the lyrics to the song. So here's what I sang. Holy Diver, you've been gone too long in the midnight sea. Why don't you climb up a tree? And that came back to haunt me for years on end. Holy Diver, why don't you climb up a tree? And so that was Fatal Accident's first and last gig ever.
Wow.
So my first official gig as a guitar player, I still have photographs of it. We played a 3-song set. The name of the band was White Clover because apparently that was the first name of Kansas before they changed their name, and the singer was obsessed with Kansas. Guys,
That's some serious street cred.
yes, serious street cred. We had all the chicks, 0.
Yeah, just like Kansas.
Yeah. We opened with Turn Up the Radio.
Wow.
Yes.
Nice.
I was, of course, in great Rich Ward fashion, I was the Rudolph Schenker of the band, not going to even try to touch that solo.
Yeah, didn't that guy like put out like a guitar manual or something?
Yeah, I was like, okay, you're really good at playing chords, stick to it. So we did Turn Up the Radio, I Want You to Want Me, and Still Loving You.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, it
Good
was
set list.
good set. And for some bizarre reason, my mom got me the fake leather tight pants, to look rock and roll. And I was trying to accessorize. So I got my red soccer shin guards that were like slip-on socks that were on the outside of them. So I had these weird kind of red leggings that had a puffy front on them to protect in
Nice.
case anyone tried to kick me while I was playing.
Nice.
Yeah, and one of the guys from the local kind of shop class made me a guitar cord that went to my amp that had chasing lights that would kind of go, because back then it's like
Yeah,
you get
son.
production value.
Yeah.
That's killer. Yeah.
Okay, Billy's going to tell us about his first gig, but first I want to tell you about the first thing you should do if you're trying to get on the path to healthier living. I'm talking about DDPY. Download the DDPY Now app and let my buddy Dime and Dallas Page help you own your life. You know what DDP did for my back and what it continues to do for me to this very day. It's why I'm able to hit the road with Fozzy on our spring tour in a couple weeks, and while I'll be main eventing AEW's Double or Nothing with Kenny Omega in Las Vegas on May 25th. I can't say enough about Dallas' amazing yoga program, except that you should try it for yourself if you haven't already. All you gotta do is download the DDPY Now app. There's one for Apple and one for Android, and then take advantage of the 7-day free trial. DDP is the program you've been looking for. It's a kick-ass cardio program, easy on your joints. You can connect a Bluetooth heart monitor to the app so you can keep track of your calories burned. Also super easy to get the app to stream to your TV, so you can get the workouts on the big screen. You can even do live workouts live from the DDPY Performance Center in Smyrna, Georgia. So take advantage of the 7-day free trial of the DDPY Now app and give Dallas's life-changing program a solid 1-week try. Own your life for free. Get started at ddpyoga.com/Jericho. That's ddpyoga.com/Jericho. And pick up Dallas's book to help keep you motivated. It's called Positively Unstoppable, The Art of Owning It, filled with lessons from Dallas's own life. You can get it wherever books are sold. And in the meantime, and in between time, get started on DDPY. It will get your mind and your body into the best shape it's ever been. I guarantee it. I am living proof this really works. Go to ddpyoga.com/Jericho and get started today. Billy, you're first? Or is it you already talked about your first?
Yeah, the first one.
Okay. So was there another one?
Oh yeah, I can go on to the Battle of the Bands high school days. Okay, there was a band called Animal Bag back home in Charlotte, which actually had a legit video on MTV. They did really well.
That, yeah.
And but before they did that, the drummer and the guitarist and myself and a bass player had a band called Felon. And Felon.
Oh, Felon.
Okay.
Sorry.
So like fella better.
How you doing, fella?
Hey, fella.
So we were playing the Battle of the Bands at our high school, West Charlotte High School, and Mom was in the audience.
That must have been the year after I played, because my first gig was, and I'm a year older than you. My first gig ever was the Battle of the Bands, West Charlotte High School. So I must have played the year before you did, because then I moved to Atlanta.
Our illustrious singer, while we were doing the gig, we played Stick It, and we played by Great White.
We played Stick It in Fatal Accident too.
Okay, so we did. We did two songs. We did Stick It and Piece of Your Action. We did Piece of Your Action first. Then when the time came to play Stick It, the whole administration of the school sitting right there in the front row. Well, our singer decides to flip them all off while we're playing Stick It. My mom's in the crowd. Her eyes are this big. After the show, she's like, y'all were good, but you really embarrassed me. And I was just like, ah. And of course, we got disqualified, so that's my claim to fame. It's a high school Battle of the Bands right there.
You said, Mom, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, and then you whipped your cock out. No. It's so funny, Stick It, though, because I remember that was when David Byrds blew Before the Dawn. He already had nailed Stick It. And I remember it was fun for bass because it just goes gong, gong. It was cool to be a bass player back in those days because every inch of the song was just boom, boom, boom.
Out on the road and I'm rocking. That's my favorite line. That's my favorite line of the song.
Yeah, man.
I used to rock that.
So, okay, so as we move forward through the Fatal Accident, so when I started high school, a new group of guys were around that were singers and players. So me and Ahoff were like the package deal. And then we met this guy called Warren Rumpel.
Mr. Rumpel.
Years later, Scotty Ian famously dissed when we went to meet Anthrax, and deservedly so. He said to Scotty, he goes, I see that you have ton shaved in your chest. Is that... No, sorry. I see you have not shaved in your chest. Is that ton backwards because you guys are so heavy? And he goes, that's the stupidest... he goes, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. And walked away.
I have a hoid.
So he was a drummer. And he had this whole group of guys from the other junior high school that we met up with. So the first band that was the big jam was called Primitive Means, which it was kind of more of a punkier type thing, which is actually a pretty cool name once again. So it was me and Ahoff, and me and Ahoff were pretty good. Like Kevin would teach me how to play, all the Maiden, all the Metallica. We still didn't have a drummer, but I wasn't Steve Harris or Cliff Burton, but in my mind, I thought I was. Like I could do it. So we were playing with a bunch of other guys, and the gimmick of this band was you would try and write funny lyrics. So we had a song called like Chewy Man and a song called
Chewy Man.
Tipper Gory, I think it was, about a zombie Tipper Gore. And then the other one was Gay Nights. And a lot of these songs would have intros. So the intro for this was taking two cymbals and rubbing them together. So it goes, oh, it's a gay head. What are you unleashing out of your sheath? And then that would start off the big thing, and it'd be like, Gay Nights, ding 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 ding, Gay Nights. And you would basically, and these are nights like K-N-I-G-H-T-S. Yeah. And you'd basically just make it up as you go. And Kev would start a riff, I'd follow along, drums would come in, guys would shout out some lyrics. years later, I gave my cousin Chad a copy of The Primitive Means, and we went skiing in Panorama, British Columbia. And my dad and I, and maybe my mom, whoever else, was sitting in the hot tub. And Chad goes upstairs to play some music out of the balcony ghetto blaster, and decides to put on Gay Nights. And the whole place is listening to this intro. Oh, so gay ahead. What is that coming out of your sheet? I'm like, Chad, shut it off! Shut it off! He goes, I can't find it. Stop it! My dad's like, what is this? I'm like, it's our band. He goes, well, this is your band? This is disgusting. Turn it off. Well, wait, if you heard the song, you really know. So that was the beginning of Primitive Means.
Oh my god. My first gig,
Where's my baby?
the band didn't actually have a name or a singer. It was just me and 2 guitar players and a bass player. My buddy Clayton, who I'm still friends with, was playing guitar. This guy named Chris, oh god, he's gonna kill me. Chris Briley was playing bass. And oddly enough, the other guitar player was this guy named Rick Shepard, who ended up working for Dallas Austin. He ended up being like an engineer for Dallas Austin. So he got actually did
Who's Dallas Austin?
He's a famous producer from Atlanta. Yeah. He makes beats, man. Yeah, he makes beats, man. He ended up in that world. I don't think he's still in it, but we ended up calling the band Split Image, which I thought was a cool name. But we
With
played
special guest, Fatal
Accident. And Primitive Means.
So our first gig was at a party in the off, like in apartment complexes, they have the clubhouse. Yeah. We played the
That
club.
was my first gig, too.
Yeah,
was
we
the
played
Clubhouse.
We played
I did
the
some of
clubhouse
those,
in the
yeah.
apartment complex, and the first song of our set was "Switch 625" by Def Leppard, because we had no singer. It was an instrumental.
Right.
But then we went on to play "United" by Judas Priest, and we played "Living After Midnight," and we played some song by this band called The Shoes, which I don't
Interesting.
remember. Yeah.
I think they might have even opened for Van Halen at some point. That name sounds real familiar.
They had a couple of songs that made a little bit of radio. They were like the Producers, that band that from Atlanta that had a few okay.
Just a quick little segue. You're talking about the Shoes, and
Yeah.
Van Halen always had really bad opening acts.
Yes, they
Right.
You know the reason why? I think Rich knows this. When I had Randy Bachman on, BTO opened for Van Halen 5150 tour. Because Sammy Hagar said, I don't want anyone coming on stage and just thinking about David Lee Roth. I want you guys to go out there and play 30 minutes of your biggest hits. And literally, as soon as BTO finished, Van Halen started. And Randy said, Sammy said, you know why Van Halen never used good opening bands? Because they wanted to keep all the merch money. So they'd always have, because I saw them with the Velcros, and there was the shoes and all these other things.
saw them with Kajagoogoo.
Well, yeah, I mean, come on, right?
Yeah.
So Rich, who was your your main high school band? Did you have one?
No, I didn't. And the reason is that it was hard to, my parents moved, and so I lost my entire group of Charlotte friends and moved to Atlanta, but we lived in the suburbs. And then I found a group of guys to play with, and they had a band called the Level Creek Band because the name of the street was Level Creek.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and they were a bunch of Southern rock guys, and they were all great. They could play all this, the Molly Hatchet. They could play this, they were really good. And I learned from them, and then I met another group of guys at the school who were into Duran Duran, Scott Banks, and some other players Mark Dixon, and I started playing with these guys, and we were playing. That was the first time that I started actually gigging kind of regularly, playing high school dances, because back then, the real way to gig was playing high school dances. And they were a big thing. This is pre-DJs.
Yeah, all our dances.
Homecomings were all bands.
Yeah, all our high school dances were bands. They weren't DJs or anything. And we actually, have you guys ever had a band play your high school dance that actually went on to have some notoriety?
Zebra, right?
Zebra played one of our high school dances. I remember, because that's such an unusual name, going to see this, high school dance and seeing this band called Zebra, and they were 3-piece. And they were great. Then, of course, a few years later, they're on the radio.
Got a couple hits that they still play on Boneyard.
They were great, man.
But that was the best training for me, is to learn how to play Bryan Adams and Def Leppard and Duran Duran and Howard Jones, learning all of these different rhythm techniques and learning how to really play rhythm guitar, because a lot of guys were coming up and they were just learning to be Warren DeMartini, or like they were learning the shred stuff. That wasn't going to happen where I lived because I couldn't play bars. When Billy and I were coming up, you had to be 21 years old to be even play in a bar.
Yep.
So your only options, if you were going to gig, was to play dances, and that was meant to be in a variety band. And my best gig ever was I was playing the homecoming dance at my own high school, which was amazing because it's like I get to be the hero. And the guy who brought in the PA system had his brand new wireless. I was like, oh my God, you have a wireless system? Whoa. So it gets big dollars for a high school kid. He goes, you want to use it? I was like, yes. So I had the wireless system on, and I went into the crowd when we were playing Bryan Adams' Heaven, and I grabbed a girl to do a little slow dance while I'm playing the song, and the wireless went out and at 100 decibels. And it's through the whole PA. All it was that super loud, that sound when your whole system goes out while everyone's slow dancing, and you get the what's going on?
Some things never change.
Yes, ever.
Billy, who's your? Did you have a main high school band?
Well, that was the felon.
Oh, the felon
things, and then
Fella.
So yeah, fellas. And after that, it kind of went to the illustrious Sleaze Patrol, which myself and Possum from Revolver played in, and we went to playing. We went to playing some good club shows. We played.
Were you still in high school at the time?
Yeah.
Wow.
We played Pterodactyl Club. We opened up for all this band called New York back in the day, and they were pretty big.
I remember.
Back in the day, a circuit band.
Yeah.
And we would headline this place in Rock Hill on Cherry Road.
Cherry Road. We all
Skating
know
rink.
about Cherry Road.
We would put 500 people in there playing cover tunes from Metallica, Motley Crue, Van Halen, Poison, and things kind of went from there. And then I moved to LA with Possum as well after
What's
that.
so funny? Like you guys were so much bigger than our band. Like I thought, my big high school band was Scimitar.
Yeah.
And it was me, Kevin Ahoff, and Warren Rumpel. There's 3 names for you: Irvin Ahoff and Rumpel.
Our trio.
Which I actually wanted to call the name of the band AIR.
That would
Ahoff
have been-
and Rumpel.
That would have been perfect.
Cool.
Yeah, but it was an Anthrax song, but the guys wanted to do a scimitar, which of course the T was shaped like a scimitar, like Sinbad's
Yeah, oh,
curved
yeah.
sword.
As you do.
As you do, because the logo is the most important thing when you start a band, right?
Not to mention people who said, "Why you call yourselves Air?"
Exactly. So going back to what you said, I remember one time, so Warren decided he was going to play drums, and Warren was a lot like Lars Ulrich. He played by sheer will and determination with early Lars. Lars now is amazing, but no drumming skills whatsoever. He wanted to play drums. He had a drum set, and he had a house that we could jam in after school. And so he had this really shitty drum set. So we went downtown one day on the bus to pick up because he found a drum set at a pawn shop. And it was, once again, it was a Frankenstein drum set. So we had 3 bass drums with and they're all different beats of, and imagine 2 morons carrying 5 drums, 8 cymbals on the bus. There's people trying to get on the bus. We're trying to get off the bus. Like, don't leave without us. And so we asked
You
this.
put all your equipment on the city bus?
Yes. It's the only way we had to get downtown. So we bought the bus pawn shop. So we set up in his garage, and the first song we knew, because Ahoff, I'll get to this later, but Ahoff was very OCD. He refused to play it unless it was perfect. Now, how do you learn unless you go through it a bit? But the first one that we really knew well was You Really Got Me, with no singer at the time. So we used to jam in the garage with the door up in the summertime as the kids were walking home from school. And there was these 2 hot chicks that lived down the street from Warren. They were called Carla McNacka and Lorraine Foster. And so every time they were walking home, we'd start getting and dude, we had long cloaks that we bought at Salvation Army, the look, kind of the
For rehearsal?
yeah, kind of Poison, but also Maiden was kind of doing that stuff.
Wizard sleeves. And
Yeah, I had a big red one. It was called the Simicoat.
oh my!
Yeah. So we do this every day, and finally, after about a month of this, they walked by, and the one chick said, "Don't you know any more songs?" And the other one, "Doesn't anybody sing? This sucks," or something like that. So they walked by, and they were like, "Well, I guess we should try something different." And that's when we started. Actually, we learned more originals. We were always writing original stuff, and that's kind of what our thing was, which is probably why we never played any real shows or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, back then, being an original band, it was virtually impossible.
Well, and it was just for us trying to learn and get better. We knew how to play. You know, we knew most of the Maiden catalog up to Somewhere in Time, most of the Metallica up until Master of Puppets. Because AOF could teach us that stuff. Warren was out in that field, but at least we kind of knew it. What was the first original song that you ever wrote?
Yeah, I don't really know. I have tons of cassettes of first ideas, but nothing ever became anything until Stuck Mojo when we first started. It was the first real band. I had, you know, when you first start off and you've got a band and you go in the studio and record it, but again, a lot of that stuff, I don't have strong memories of. Because it didn't mean anything. Like I love your stories because those bands meant stuff to you. I always felt like, you know, and I think part of the best thing that I always did was I always surrounded myself with musicians that were way better than me. So I was kind of learning from them. They were a few years older, but they were also driving the car. So we'd go to the studio, I'd play some guitar stuff, but I wasn't the boss of the band like you were. Like you had groups that you were like,
There's 3 guys for the whole high school. Yeah, our whole high school experience. And we were going to make it. I used to draw comics of all the band members and all the adventures we would have. And then,
Did you ever make the laminates, the backstage passes?
No, but I had comics. I got reams of comics.
Oh, okay.
But the one thing is that we got in an argument one time, and I got kicked out of the band. And I was like, I'll start my other band. So my new band was called Dangerous Curve, spelled C-I-R-V, because my last name is Irvin. And Dangerous Curve. And I was like, I had a logo, I had an album cover, I didn't have a band. So after about 2 lunch hours of not jamming, I went back there and they took me back into the band. Do you remember the first song you ever wrote,
I
Billy?
do. It was with Sleaze Patrol back in the. Well, I mean, as far as like a chorus with lyrics and a riff, it was called "Shadows in the Night."
Yes, it was.
Shadows in the night, take a look around you. It was a big hit.
We had a blizzard in 1986, the famous 86 blizzard in Winnipeg, which I'm not going to tell you how much snow, but it was something like 10 feet of snow. It was ridiculous. So everybody was shut in. So we said, tomorrow, I'll walk over to Warren's house. It took about half an hour in the snow, but write some songs tonight, and we're going to do a record tomorrow. So the night before, I was possessed. I wrote 3 really good songs, quote unquote. One was called Sour Grapes, one was called Baby Psycho, one was called Weenie Roast, which is about a cannibal that would make wieners out of human flesh, right? And I still remember Sour Grapes. Here's this like da da banana da da banana da da banana.
Sour Grapes.
That's exactly it.
Sour grapes.
Sour grapes. And then it goes sour grapes, rotten cream, overripe bananas. It's all for me. And it was about a guy that liked eating rotten food. It's all I could think of, but the riff was cool.
Shocking this never went anywhere.
The chorus was sour grapes. Oh, no, I really love them, sour grapes. Can't get enough of them.
Rotten cream.
And then Baby Psycho's Baby Psycho. Dun, 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 dun. Now he's got you. Na, 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 na. Baby Psycho, yeah. Gonna kill you, ha ha ha. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, screams from Baby's room, yeah. Now he's got you. Na, 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 na.
That is amazing. You remember that. I can't remember Fozzy songs in Soundcheck. You're like, no, Rich, you wrote this song 6 years ago.
We've played it 100 times.
I don't know, but like you said, because I was so into it, and I must have listened to those songs / records, because you'd put 10 songs on a recording, that would be your new record.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you had cassettes that you listened to.
We would make the song very quickly, and then put it onto a cassette, and we'd have an album. And I would, similar to now, I would put together the track listing and figure out this needs to be the opener, and this is the closer, and this is what we're gonna do.
I was way too self-loathing to listen to any of my own material. I was like, God, we suck.
We need to work up Sour Grapes for a sound check.
Dude, it's really easy. I can show it to you. I can show it to you.
We'll get Jack Slade to sling it.
But that's the thing, was like, like you said, that there was nobody to really filter this. And I think if you did actually practice and rehearse, it would probably be really good. And that was AOF's thing. He's like, nobody can ever hear this. It's not good enough. And I was like, dude, it's wicked. It's awesome. Like, who would not want to hear this music?
Sour Grapes, that's a hit.
Yeah, AOF is me. If you play that for anyone, I will break that cassette.
So how about you mentioned Battle of the Bands experiences? Did you have you mentioned yours, Billy, with the finger up. Did you ever have one, Rich, a Battle of the Bands experience?
Yeah, that was the one that I was telling
you went to with the girl?
Yeah, with the one that I played at West Charlotte High School. The funny thing is, Frank and I took similar paths in that we tried playing covers and we had these bands, but ultimately our first kind of realization as musicians came from our first band, and I will tell you, Frank's was. I met Frank after I had I had moved to Atlanta, and I was looking for musicians to kind of network with, and Frank was in a band called Lethal Promise. And I heard about Lethal Promise because in the little Atlanta scene, there were 4 or 5 bands that everyone kind of knew. There was Ouija. There was Lethal Promise.
Like Ouija board?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then there was Mark Willis's, who is Fozzie's manager, had a band.
Masada.
Yes. So there was a handful of yes. They had a song called "Long Hair, No Underwear." They also had a song called "I Got Crabs, But I Ain't Been Fishing."
Oh.
Yeah. So so I met Frank, and Frank had Charlie Benante hair, and like the serious bangs right across the
super poof,
super
like Charlie
curly.
Benante meets Eric Carr, you
Yes.
know, Afro.
And his band was really cool. Their singer, they had this kind of Queensryche alternative metal kind of vibe to them. The singer had a super high range, and they had a guy who was kind of alternative guitar, heavy metal guitar hero, who's now his brother-in-law, Chris Staros.
Yeah.
And then he had another guitar player who looked a little bit kind of like John Sykes,
Uh-huh.
Paul Larson. And I love this band, and I asked them, could I guitar tech for you? And that's kind of how Frank and I became friends, is that I was guitar teching for Frank's band while I tried to find a group of my own musicians to start.
At Margaritaville, remember?
Of course.
Margaritaville
Yeah.
in Atlanta, Georgia. This horrible,
Now, did you guys?
club.
You guys played some covers, right? Was
No, we never played any covers
I
from the
couldn't remember,
beginning.
because
Yeah.
most
All
original
yeah,
bands
all
in
original.
Atlanta had to have a set of covers to knock the door down.
Yeah, because this
That's
was,
how it was back in the day.
1986. You know, I mean, you couldn't be an original band. I remember when I got together with these guys for the first time. Chris Staros, he was the guitar player, and he was kind of like the leader, de facto leader of the band. And he was like, I started asking, well, what kind of songs are we going to play? And he was like, well, I've got a bunch of songs. And he was talking about like songs that he'd written. I was like, well, what Rat songs are we going to do? What Judas Priest songs are we going to do? He's like, we're not doing any covers. And I was like, no cover? What do you mean? We can't do that. And at first I didn't like it because I loved playing all my favorite songs, you know? And he was like, no, I'm not wasting time playing covers. We're playing all our own stuff. And that's what we did from the beginning. And it was hard to get gigs, you know, doing that because everybody wanted covers. In fact, we got booked at this club where they didn't know we were an original band. They booked us for like a week of playing like, you know, one night stands for like a week in this club. And the guy said, well, how do you want me to advertise this on the little thing outside, you know, the marquee outside? And Chris said, so-and-so presents all original rock music with Lethal Promise. And the guy's face just went like, y'all don't play any covers?
The Frank's band had, of course, they had their, like Iron Maiden, like every band, they had a song, Lethal Promise, which was the closer. It was great. But my favorite song,
These can be found on YouTube.
yes, my favorite song by Frank's Lethal Promise outfit was Titties and Death. Which is
Just Tits and Death.
oh, Tits and Death. Sorry, yes.
That was the title.
Yeah,
Tits.
sorry.
I don't believe that one's on
It
YouTube.
doesn't make our epic song, Why'd You Kill Grandpappy, seem like such a bad song
Well,
title.
Tits and Death was clever because the whole idea was it was the reason why young dudes went to go see horror movies was
Right.
for Tits and Death.
Nice.
Yeah.
And it was a heavy song.
It was pretty heavy. Yeah.
And that's what Why'd You Kill Grandpappy was, a song about that, about a murderer that killed his grandfather, but it was 9 minutes long. What would we do? This is great though. Don't forget who we were playing, who our heroes were.
This was Scimitar. after
Maiden
all.
and Metallica.
Yeah.
So what we did, it's very much what Lars and James do now. We would record a part, stop the cassette, rehearse the next part because there was lots of tempo changes, record that, stop the cassette, so it'd be like, Inebriated. So, but we had that. So, just to say too, so there was like other rival bands in the Winnipeg area. It was called St. James where we lived. And we used to hang out at 7-Eleven. There was a 7-Eleven and a McDonald's. That's where everybody hung out. All the rockers, wintertime, summertime, whatever. And there was one band that, like I said, we played no gigs because AF wouldn't let us. But we thought we were a pretty hot shit band. And there was another band that we hated called Seventh Heaven. They were from the rival high school, John Taylor. And
We had a Seventh
They
Heaven.
played gigs like at clubs like you guys did, but they played like separate ways, and they were really good. And I hated the drummer. He just pissed me off. He'd always be hanging around with this super cool long hair, always tight jeans, and like I hate this guy. And the guy's name was Brent Fitz.
Oh.
He's now Slash's drummer after drumming for Alice Cooper and freaking Gene Simmons now.
I'm gonna tell him you said that.
He knows it. I told him first time I saw him, I said, dude, I used to hate you.
hated
He goes,
you.
I never hated you. I thought you were cool. I hated you. And it was because Warren hated him. Look at Fitz. Asshole Fitz. Look at this guy. Fitz. Stupid Sam Squint. He was so mad because Fitz had a better kit and the rival drummers, right?
3 random kick drum.
Yeah, it was so bad. So, Billy, let's talk about when you first moved out to Los Angeles. But before we do that, our friends at the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration want you to be safe on the road. Now, listen, it can be a little frustrating, especially if you're in a rush or running late, to find yourself at a railway crossing waiting for a train. I know the feeling. You don't want to wait. The signals are going. The train's not even there yet. You feel a little bit tempted to try and sneak across the tracks. Well, I'm telling you, don't do it ever. Trains are often going a lot faster than you expect them to be, and they can't stop. So even if a train engineer hits the brakes right away, it can take a train over a mile to finally stop. And by that time, what used to be your car is just a crushed hunk of metal. And what used to be you, well, let's not even think about that. Let's just say it's very, very, very bad for everyone involved. Point is this: you can't know how quickly the train will arrive, so the train can't stop even if it sees you, and the result is disaster. If the signals are on, the train is on its way. You just have to remember one thing: stop, because the train can't. Talk is Jericho, also sponsored in part by Indeed.com. When it comes to hiring, you don't have time to waste. You need help getting to your short list of qualified candidates fast. That's why you need Indeed.com. Post a job in minutes, set up screener questions, then zero in on qualified candidates using an intuitive online dashboard. And when you need to hire fast, accelerate your results with sponsored jobs. New users can try it for free at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms, conditions, and quality standards apply. Find the right person that you want to hire. Go to Indeed.com/podcast. Go do it now. So, Billy, when you first, how old were you when you first moved to LA?
I was 17.
Gosh, so you're still high school age.
Yeah.
Did you graduate?
No, I didn't.
So you dropped out, you proverbial musician.
Yeah, and John, or Possum, had already moved out there, and he had a band they were called Forced Entry. The guitar player quit. All right. So they had already played a few gigs out there, and the guitar player quit. So he calls my mom up one day, and I wasn't doing good in school, and this and that and the other. And she's like, "Well, John called the other day and talked to me. Would you want to move out to LA?" I was like,
Your mom
"Yeah."
asked you?
Oh yeah. I was like, "Hey, are you kidding? Hell yeah, mom."
My mom would have erased that from the answering machine.
Mom was like, Mom was like, "You
I would
wanna
have never
do it?
gotten
You wanna
that
go give it a
message.
shot?" God bless Mom. You know.
Way to
Yeah,
go,
good for her.
Mom.
Good.
She did, and so I moved out there. We played all the clubs.
Did
on
you
the
did you
strip.
have money, or like did you give you
helped-
some
well,
money to go
Yeah,
out
they
there?
helped. My family helped me out. Then I got a job as a telemarketer out there, 6 a.m. to 12:20 p.m. every day.
What's your job?
Just getting on the phone, getting the sale going. Then you would get the closer to close the deal.
were you selling?
Selling office supplies. And
So,
first,
I'm gonna call you
and
Dwight
the first
Schrute from
person,
now on.
the first company I called when I got out there was Mom's company. I had to sell them office supplies.
Okay, so pretend the phone rings. Hello.
Hey, this is Billy from such and such. Who do I speak to you? Who do I speak to about your office supply purchases?
That would be me. I'm in charge.
Okay. Well, let me tell you what I got going on here. I read off a script, Then I would get to the point where, oh, okay, well, let me introduce you to Sam. He's my boss, and he's gonna close out the deal here for you. And
Wow.
That guy would come in and throw it down.
Yeah,
that's
it would
strong.
go from
Hey,
there.
and just the 7 degrees of Ward and Gray. Billy's mom worked for an insurance company that he sold office supplies to, and then the office next door was my dad's travel
it
agency.
was. My
New
mom knew
Horizons Travel.
My mom
And
knew
they
your dad.
Knew each other.
Yes, they did.
That's great, man.
And I hated Billy Gray like you hated Fritz Fitz. I was like, what do you mean he can play flying high against solo? That asshole. What the? Like, was he abducted by an alien? What happened? Like, I'm still trying to play. I'm still trying to play Looks and Kill. Damn you.
That was a big hit for us, by the way, when we did our Maiden and Priest covers, when we did play, or Maiden and Metallica covers, when we played parties, the ones that we did play, you had to whip out the Talk Dirty to Me. Because at least then the chicks would be like,
We did too. Sleaze Patrol played it.
Yeah. It's such a bad song.
Never
but it's-
liked it.
Chicks loved it.
Yeah, they
we
did.
play that.
Did Sleaze Patrol become Lickety Split?
No, that was way before none of the same members.
Oh, okay.
None of the same
They became
guys.
the originals.
Yeah.
Because Billy's had several bands that I knew of. Like, he
Yeah.
had popular bands in Charlotte that did well. Because then after Forced Entry,
Yeah, I moved. John
moved?
quit.
right, and you moved back.
Back
right?
home, yeah.
And then you started Lickety Split then?
Yes, I
Okay.
jumped right into that.
Yeah, and then he had a
And,
band called Method 51 that
which
was
is
a popular
That's
band.
what led me to you guys.
Yes.
I fronted that as a singer. It was a rapcore band, and I fronted and played guitar for them.
It was a
We had,
trio.
we had an imprint
three-piece.
deal. Yeah, 3-piece. We had an imprint deal with Atlantic. Had a record out, and which ironically had a song called "To Be the Man, You Gotta Beat the Man." Remember, I played you that
You
video,
did, that's right.
which has in the loop in the middle of the song, "The Lionheart, Chris Jericho's about to be," you know.
That's right.
You
Yeah,
remember
yeah.
that? So, and that led me
I do
to
remember that.
opening for Stuck Mojo, and that's why I'm here today.
It's history.
So I'm going to go back, and like I said, because I had this high school band where we actually, were together for a while. So our first and only battle of the bands, it was at a teenage nightclub, and I've been trying to think the name the whole time. It began with an S. It wasn't Sidewinders or Splitters, or it was something called, like, I don't remember what it was, but you had to audition to get this.
Shenanigans.
It might as well be, but it was a teenage nightclub.
Wasn't that the cool thing about the 80s were teen clubs?
Yeah, we used to
love
play them all the
And
time,
the idea
dude.
for that was you could go there, dance, and hang out. There's no alcohol, but it'd be a place. It's like a youth
Your
group.
parents could drop you off.
Yes.
They knew that you would, basically be within the confines of this.
The
Yeah.
Boys and Girls Club, but kind of a cooler version. So
Yes.
it was all the way over the other side of town for us, and we had to audition. So we sent in a tape of an original song, which was City Nights, which started with the drum, bass, and guitar solo, like something out of it was something out of Eat 'Em and Smile, because it was like
Way to get a hit.
yeah. It's like, do-cha, do-do-cha, do-do-cha, diddle-diddle, down, diddle, 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 bing, diddle, 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 like down, tick it down, down, tick it down, down, tick it down, banana, which kind of
I'm sure you made a lot of friends on the dance floor with that.
we
one.
did. So we auditioned and made it. You had to play one cover and one original. So we did City Nights, and the cover, once again, to appeal to the teenage nightclub.
Big city nights.
Well, the piece sells, but who's buying?
Oh, okay.
As you do. The worst.
You needed a manager.
So we showed up, and dude, I was all out. I smashed a mirror, and I glued mirror onto gauntlets, which were made out of socks that I cut the ends off. So a gauntlet is like a big long sleeve with the mirrors were glued to my jeans, which made me have droopy drawers because they were too heavy. And I had a cut off, super tight white shirt, and I drew a question mark on it. Because why?
Mysterious.
Why? Yeah, mysterious. So we
Gender
started.
neutral.
So we started playing it. We opened with Peace Sells, and of course that's me, dude. I'm the bass player. Nothing. My freaking cord came unplugged because I stepped on it when I was rocking, and the cord came out of the bass and fell on the ground.
Oh, okay.
So it goes. That's not what to do. So we stop.
Oh,
I
God.
plug in, We start again.
1, 2, 3, 4. What else can you do?
And we never knew about having like to keep your kick drum in position by putting like a brick in front of it or something.
it was creeping?
It was creeping. Warren was trying to play. And he's like, oh shit, yeah, I can't play, I can't read. So we stumbled and bumbled through, and lo and behold, we won. We won the first round, and I will never forget how exciting it was because there was one girl. Her name was Carolyn Mraz, and when the local paper came out that Scimitar was playing at Name of Club in the Battle of the Band, she cut the picture out and put it in her locker.
Wow.
It was our first rock and roll fan.
You won against the guy's band with the one glass eye.
And so then the next week we went back and we got destroyed by this band called The Fourth Floor, and they did some wicked kind of cool, like a Toto type song, and they did Back in the USSR, and they murdered us. And that was it. We were done. And I remember just the thrill of victory and the agony.
They played songs people like.
They played it was like Don't Stop Believing or something like that, you know.
It's your first lesson. You should have played the Beatles. You knew better.
Yeah,
They were your
you knew
favorite
better.
band.
But I just and then the caveat of this was they showed it on this show. It was on every Friday night, and it was called Bundy's Late Night Adventure. And Bundy was like the host, and he would do different stuff, and it was on. We were on for like 2 minutes, and we recorded it. And so every guy in the band got to keep it for like a week, right? And I was the first guy because I was the bass player, and I probably cried about it till I got it. So I watched it one time, and I go downstairs to watch it again, and I'm looking to watch, and it's like Love Boat that my mom had taped. And I was like, oh, okay, Mom, where's the tape of Scimitar? She goes, what do you mean? She goes, where's the Scimitar tape? She goes, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, no, okay, hold on a second here. Please don't say that you... She goes, Love Boat was on, and I recorded the tape. I was like, Mom, are you... The Love Boat? And she's like, why didn't you label? Why didn't you remember the VHS tapes? You could click the back, the little
the tab.
She goes, and I never thought about writing Scimitar on it. I never thought about clicking the tab out of it. And my mom recorded over Scimitar with Love Boat. And imagine me having to tell Aoff and Rumpel that because remember what those days you couldn't go back and watch it again. It was never on again.
That's it. That was done.
I even called Bundy's Late Night Adventure. The studio said, "Do you guys have the tape of the show?" They're like, "Tape of the show? We record over it right away with Love Boat or whatever's on it."
Fantasy Island.
Yeah. So that was it, man, and that was kind of the end. After that, we couldn't continue on under those circumstances, and that was pretty much
No,
it.
once the tape was erased with Love Boat, it was a sign.
He was done. And even my dad, even for a high school graduation gift, he bought us studio time. And Aoff just wasn't interested. So what are we going to record? You know? And I was like, well, can't we record something? He's like, no, we're done. The tape's recorded over. We're finished.
Now, fast forward now as a dad, have you ever done something like that? Like accidentally erased over a dance recital or...
It's different now, though, because everything is recorded on like a phone or... So
Everything's so
out there.
archivable,
Yeah.
That's
Like,
a great point.
you know, now you would, if it was on TV, you would just DVR it. And if you erased it, I mean, you know, somebody else would have DVR'd it, or you can find it, or they replay it, or something. You know, YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube us.
Somebody would have found it. You know what
It's
I mean?
so
That's how it
true.
was
Yeah,
back in
these
those
days everything's out there now. I mean, there's so many things that are just gone.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
There were so
yeah.
many moments of my career, even like into, you know, making records that things had just gone into the ether, you know,
Yeah.
pre-YouTube, and you've got
Yeah.
a video cassette of it, but I don't know where that video cassette, or did it get
You
erased?
didn't label
or
it
just-
exactly.
Exactly right.
There was a cassette of that first gig that I did with that band with No Name, where we, played that party that I was talking about. And for the longest time, I had that cassette. It sounded horrible because it was recorded with one of those, the classic
Yeah.
cassette player, with the buttons.
Yeah, record, play.
Yeah, record, play, rewind. And I had it for the longest time, and I actually did a drum solo on that recording. And it's the one time in the entire set that we played probably 6 songs, but it was the one time you hear people cheer over the music, because it's like we would play a song and we'd end and people would clap and it was cool, and you'd hear the talking, of people in the background. Then we'd play another song, and I did a drum solo and went right from the drum solo into the beat that opens Living After Midnight, and as soon as we hit the first chorus, ba, da, 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 you hear the audience roar like over the music, and it's the one time that happened, and it's like I'd give anything to have that tape.
tape again.
We had this. I just always remember there was this guy in the background who was a friend of mine from high school. This real rednecky dude. In between every song, he would be like, "Y'all play some Ted Nugent," and like before the last song, you know, he's like, you know, everybody clapping, cheering, yeah, play some Ted Nugent. Y'all play some Ted Nugent. And before the last song, you hear him go, "Hey, seriously, play some Ted Nugent."
We just as we wind down here, a couple last thoughts. So we mentioned City Nights. We actually had a video for City Nights that we recorded, and then we recorded a video for another song called Stranded, which I based on a Stephen King short story called
Concept videos?
Yes.
Oh my
I'd give anything.
But it had nothing to do with one of the. So Stranded was based on Survivor Type, which is about a guy who's stranded on an island and ends up eating himself. So that's what I was writing about. Hey, you know why? Because Anthrax wrote about Stephen King. I should write about Stephen King too. And that started with the bass solo. And so the opening concept was Scimitar walking through the schoolyard and being accosted by a gang of toughs. And they're like, "Who are you? We're Scimitar, and we're super tough." And these guys are, "Who are you?
Who
We're
are
Scimitar."
you? Were they from Asia or something?
It's like Scimitar sucks, man. Yeah, you suck. The bass sucks, the guitar sucks, and the drums suck. And we think Scimitar sucks. And then we go, Scimitar, like Voivod. And then we attack, and there's a big gang fight, and we beat the hell out of the whole gang.
Well,
and
you
then
guys
we,
were ambitious.
And then we just keep walking. No, wait a second. It was just for City Nights. We were playing Stranded as we were walking with the Ghetto Blaster. We beat up the villains. Then we went to play Stranded, and then we went into the City Nights video.
How did you edit it all together?
We had a guy who could edit with a cord from the VHS camera, which was very big.
Yeah,
it was like
of course.
a capture camera. But if you plugged it into, he was kind of a real techie type of guy. He wasn't in the band. He could figure out how to edit. Now every edit, much like the Why Do You Kill Grandpappy, had like a little. So you like in every edit during the video would have.
Do you have that tape?
I think I have it.
Because to me, that's one of those. That would be the thing that I would love to have is like capturing the youthful, me at that moment in life of just saying, you know, look at us as kids and our imagination and.
Well,
now, you know,
because you didn't know. Like I said, here we are sitting in Berlin. We had a jam-packed show last night. We played to, I don't know, 10,000 people the night before at Wacken. And it all starts for all of us just like this. Whether you're whether you're Paul McCartney or Lars Ulrich or, you know, a guy who's just starting right now, a kid just starting in the basement. And that's kind of the one sad thing that is, I don't, like my son's friend is in a band. His name is Julian. I took him and Ash to see Kiss, and I said to Paul Stanley, I said, "Tell him what you play." He said, "I just learned how to play Creatures of the Night." He goes, "Well, maybe you can teach me how to play it." And he was just so excited. And I was like, "Ash, go sing for his band. You can sing." It's not my style. It's not my style. But I'm wondering if there's like, is there kids still getting together and playing in bands, or is it more just the video game culture? Or?
They are. It's not. I don't think it's. You know, it isn't what it used to be. But there's still kids out there putting bands together.
yeah, I actually have read that guitar sales are way down.
That's right. Did you hear Kirk Hammett said about
Yes.
that? Yeah.
Gibson, Fender, all these big companies are really suffering because kids are just not playing instruments at home.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, and it's, you know, of course, you know, they've shifted their attention to other things, tech and like you said, video games and stuff, and maybe, you know, maybe in 50 years there won't be bands with guitars and bass and drums. Maybe everything will be program based.
Yeah.
It would be sad if that was the case. I mean, you think about 100 years ago, you would never have a symphony orchestra that it could ever think about being replaced by synthesizers and
Sure. Or like Kirk said, like, you know, a mandolin or a lute used to be like the forefathers of all instruments. They don't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
It's an interesting point.
But at the same time, though, if you think about it, like one of the biggest up-and-coming bands is Greta Van Fleet.
That's right.
And they've gone back to
That's
straight roots.
Yeah,
So
and like
hopefully
vinyl
that's true.
sales have increased. You know,
Yes,
I think hopefully. I mean, this may be me being naive, or Pollyanna, but I'm hoping that I'm hoping that there'll be a little bit more of a resurgence of kids, who like might experience, like there'll be kids growing up who've come up who haven't ever seen a live band play like in person,
Right.
and the first time they see it, go, wow, that's really cool. You can
That
do
quite
that.
often at Fozzy shows, someone's first show, and they're like 18 or 16
Yeah.
or 15. Yeah.
Yeah, they
Interesting question.
No, I was just gonna say they see somebody playing guitar in a live situation, and it'll be like so alien to them. It's just like, that's amazing. How do you do that? I want to do that.
Isn't it interesting that you brought up the hottest kind of new upstart band is Greta Van Fleet, and then you bring up the idea, the concept of how there's been a big resurgence for vinyl, which both harken back to kind of a desire for nostalgia. Because Greta Van Fleet is nothing more than a real dig back into some retro approach to music.
Totally.
So maybe that is the answer as music kind of lurches forward, kind of into the retro age. Maybe there is room for young kids who love AC/DC or Motorhead and can embrace kind of these kind of rootsy, like Greta Van Fleet, who are obviously influenced by Zeppelin and bands like that.
I mean, how does it make you feel when how does it make you feel when you see like a 17 or 18-year-old kid wearing a Zeppelin shirt or an AC/DC shirt?
Or how does it make you feel when you see Greta Van Fleet being the hottest band in the land right now, and they're 20 years old?
Right.
I mean, that's good for rock and roll. It's good for all of us, you know. A couple last points. As when I went to Calgary to start wrestling, I met another guy called Lenny Olson, who we started jamming together with a drum machine, and we made a record with the band name of Great Caesar's Ghost. And we made copies of the record, and we put them on sale at Big Rock Records and CDs in Okotoks, Alberta. And we sold more copies than Elton John and Nirvana. We sold 4, they sold 3. So we did a big sign. Outsold Nirvana and Elton John. And a song on that record was a ballad that I wrote on guitar and vocal only, based on a Halloween song called Longing, which is a Michael Kiske, basically, just guitar and vocal. And the song is called God Pounds His Nails. Years later, I took those lyrics, gave them to Rich, and that's where the song God Pounds His Nails came from.
Oh, that's cool.
Little known fact.
We outsold Madonna once. Yeah.
Where? Big Rock Records and Tapes?
Go ahead.
Well, it was at Virgin Records. She had an album release, and Rising was released. The Stuck Mojo album Rising was released the same night. But we did go and did we do a signing that day?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a signing.
So, I mean, we cheated somewhat, but still, it looked good to look on their weekly sales.
Yeah, their
we were
weekly
number
sales,
one, and
we sold
Madonna
like
was number
4,800
That's cool.
records, and she sold like 35. It's like, we sold almost 5,000 copies, and she only sold like 35, and she's Madonna. Yeah. But yeah, at Virgin Records.
at that one location. I'll take it though.
Billy, when you were on the Sunset Strip, what was your favorite gig that you ever had? Did you ever play with anybody cool?
Well, my favorite gig was at the Roxy, and it was with the band called Pretty Boy Floyd. They weren't one of my favorites, but
they're a big band.
The place was packed, dude. We were main support. It was an awesome show and something I'll never forget.
All right.
That's amazing that Billy Gray tasted all of this stuff
That's what-
first.
Yeah.
He
And you're
tasted
talking
it.
about
Played on the
1988,
Sunset Strip.
1989?
88.
Like, you were part of that scene, dude. Like, we watched Decline of the Western Civilization.
Yep.
You might be in that movie in the crowd somewhere.
My roommate was in the movie. He was in a band called Tommy Rock.
Tommy Rod. We know that guy.
Yeah,
My band is called Tommy Rod.
Tommy Rock.
Yeah.
And I started Stuck Mojo in 1989, but we didn't get our start. I mean, well, we eventually started opening for some nationals, but we actually didn't get our record deal until 1994. So Billy was already, I think we opened for, biggest band we ever opened up for early on was 311, and that would have been kind of 93 or 92 or something.
Yeah, I was
but
before me.
yeah, that's pretty cool, dude.
Yeah, man. That's
Pretty Boy Floyd.
Yeah. Stevie Sex Summers.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. What was your favorite song that used to play in the high school band, cover, original, or both? Frank?
Oh man, God, come back to me. I'd have to think about that for a second.
Billy?
I'm gonna go ahead and say "Ain't Talking About Love." I
Yeah.
just love that riff, gung, 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 and being able to start the song and at the front of the stage, as a kid, the crowd knew the song already, and after seeing Van Halen play it, it was awesome.
That's great. For me, as an original, it was City Nights, which later got changed to Puzzled Life, because City Nights was too pedestrian. And actually, that song, those guys went on to play in a band called Skullduggery, which actually had some steam in the early 90s in Winnipeg. They played all the bars, the place that we used to go watch bands play.
Okay.
And it was a little bit of my DNA that they were still playing Puzzled Life, which I wrote a couple riffs for. They dropped the bass solo at the beginning, which pissed me off. But my favorite song that we played was Aces High. And it was always fun to play because I always loved that part. And like I said, I was not a great bass player, but I could hold my own. That part, it was the one time when we nailed it. Warren was on the drums, it was great. And the final caveat was we only had a 3-piece because no one else we knew wanted to play those type of songs. So one day there's this guy moved down the street. I think I told this story recently. His name was Rick Ramratten. And he was
Rick Ramratten.
strong. He was not East Indian, but from the West Indies. Or he might have been East Indian, but he was very dark and he was like an Indian cat, whether it was East or West or whatever. And he's like, hey, you talk like this? Yeah, I play guitar, dude. I was like, wait, what do you think? Iron Maiden. And I was like, why don't you come over to our house and jam? And it's like, do you know he's like, you guys know Aces High? We're like, yeah, we know Aces High. You know Aces High? Yeah, yeah. So we played Aces High, and it was the first time Scimitar ever had 2 guitar players. Finally, all these bands that we covered were always Megadeth, Metallica, Maiden. They're all 2 guitar bands. We only have 1 guitar player. And it sounded so amazing, and it was so great. And when it was done, it's like, dude, do you want to join our band? He's like, no, dude, I'm okay. I'll see you later. And he never came again. And he must have thought we sucked.
Well, hey, you ended up in a band with 4 guitar players at one point.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Rich?
I'd probably say I'd go not the obvious thing, but that kind of high school dance band. We used to play NXS, Don't Change.
The songs don't change.
Great song.
Don't change for you.
Oh, yeah.
Don't change.
That's a great song. Yeah.
For
I like
me.
that.
Yeah. I'm standing here on the ground.
Oh, yeah,
Rule.
Is that from Listen
Yeah.
Like Thieves, or is that from earlier than that?
No, that's from an album called Shabu
Shabu Shabbat. Yeah, with original, is it Original Sin on that?
No, that only had Don't Change and what was the first song
There's a
in that
big
album?
hit on that
It was a big.
The One Thing.
Yeah, it's the one thing.
Down.
Yeah.
Or for me, like one thing leads to another. Like
Oh,
there was-
Fix.
we used to play
love that
all of those songs. Like that was like my era where I really learned. And those songs were so cool because they appealed to rockers like us, but they also translated to girls. And you could get people to dance to those songs. It was like the Pretty in Pink soundtrack era where like rock dudes still liked it. It didn't alienate.
Isn't it funny though, as we sit here talking, is that all of what you're talking about, the 4 of our influences and how we kind of started, all go into the Fozzy pot. You've got kind of the more new wave dancey stuff. You've got kind of more of the proggy, heavier stuff. You've got kind of a glam element. You got Frank, you're talking about playing hard-hitting original stuff. It's like, it really is kind of a little bit of the ingredients of the Fozzy soup.
Yeah, it's a
It is
hodgepodge.
true. When you listen to the Judas album, there's so many like different elements that come together to make kind of what is a really unique sound. And there are some real dance elements in there, and there's some real metal elements, and there's some prog elements. All these things that we're talking about that
Little glam.
we kind of grew up within is on these records. And I think, again, I think this is a cool conversation because a great way to tie it up, obviously, is that we are really who we are. This is not really put on.
Yeah.
And everyone wants to experiment and try new things, and we have. I mean, we've constantly tried to spread our wings a bit and push ourselves to be as good as we can be and try a little bit more here. But at our core, we've always been this groovy hard rock band with some proggy elements to it with big choruses, and I think that's a product of who we were when we were kids.
Yeah, exactly. Good stuff, guys. And Garth Kwasnitsa, if you're out there, please tell me how the hell you spelled your name. Because it's really bugging me. All right, Fozzy doing a bunch of gigs on the upcoming Chris Jericho's Rock and Wrestling Rager at Sea Part 2. Book your cabin while you still can at ChrisJerichoCruise.com and come join us when we set sail next January 20th. Ric Flair, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, X-Pac, Jake the Snake Roberts, Queen Sharmell, Booker T, MVP, Vicky Guerrero, Shaul Guerrero, Brad Williams, Jack Slade, Red Cup Jeff, Eric Bischoff, Conrad Thompson, so many high-level Hall of Famers and main event talent on this cruise. Fozzy will be playing Farewell to Fear, Rubik's Cube, Dark Sky Choir, Killer Queens, the greatest female Killer Queen cover in the land, Queen cover band, Dave Spivak Project, Jared James Nichols, Kick-Axe, AEW will be there. Some of the biggest stars in wrestling today will be there, about ready to announce some of the roster members from AEW who will be on the Rock and Wrestling Rager. DDP returns to host more live DDP yoga workshops on the ship. Beyond the Darkness hosting creepy paranormal events. So much stuff going on. Book now at ChrisJerichoCruise.com. We're pretty much at 83% right now. We know it's coming fast though. 9 months left for the cruise, but I think we'll probably be sold out in the next month or two. So if you want to come on board, go to ChrisJerichoCruise.com and have the vacation of a lifetime. All right, coming up on Friday, one of the newest signings to AEW, Jungle Boy Jack Perry, who's talking about his gimmick, how he got started in wrestling, and of course about his famous father, the late Luke Perry of 90210 in Riverdale. Great guy, good kid, he's a hell of a performer, and we're excited to have him in AEW, and I'm excited to have him on Talk is Jericho on Friday. So we'll see you in a couple days. Until then, stay hard, stay hungry, peace, love, and hugs, and a big yeah, boy! Sour grapes, rotten cream, overnight bananas, it's all for me. That's from Sour Grapes by Scimitar. Oh yeah!
The Westwood One Podcast Network.
Talk is Jericho, baby. Talk is Jericho.
Stop why we barely started playing, goddammit. Let's refresh the page and try again. Player FM, you are a piece of crap. I hope you know this.
Talk is Jericho, baby. Talk is Jericho. Talk is Jericho, mama. Talk is me.
All right, welcome to Talk is Jericho. It is the pod of thunder and rock and roll. And he stole the show at AEW's inaugural event, Double or Nothing, last Saturday in Las Vegas. A 5-star match for both performance, storytelling, and of course emotion as well. I'm talking about Dustin Rhodes. He and his brother Cody blew the roof off the MGM Grand Garden Arena and made people in the audience actually cry for real. It was such a great night for Dustin and Cody, and of course for all of AEW and all of us involved. But today, Dustin Rhodes is sharing his journey to AEW, what it was like for him to leave WWE, how he came up with his new paint and costume, and what he hopes for his future with AEW, of course, and without WWE, which is strange for both of us. He's also telling the story of the origin of Goldust, the crazy street brawl match he had with Rowdy Piper at WrestleMania 12 in Anaheim, another classic match of his, And he's talking about his dad, the great Dusty Rhodes, the troubles they had in Dustin's younger years, how they overcame that, and what his dad would say about Dustin and Cody's historic match last Saturday. So here we go. Dustin Rhodes on Talk is Jericho starts now. You know, here's one of the reasons why I love the wrestling business. Of course, AEW's big show, Double or Nothing, all of these great performers on there. But stealing the show, seemingly out of nowhere, but no surprise to me, was the Cody versus Dustin Rhodes match. And I think it's such a very, very cool thing to have Dustin here and to be talking about how you stole the show with your brother in 2019. Which is something I bet you nobody would have ever predicted if they would have said this 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, I keep hearing that, man. And, you know, I'm looking at your match and I'm watching all these matches. I was just happy to be a part of it. And me being 50 years old, I had no idea. But the stars aligned that night, you know.
Right.
They aligned for Cody and myself because there's a lot of angst over the years. And, you know, we really fought hard to get this thing finally done, and we were just always told it's not good enough to be on the big show. And you know, to me that was bullshit. It was they were wrong, and I focused so hard on this that I probably over focused because I was so nervous because I'd been out of the ring for about 8 months. But man, it's like as soon as the chance started, it's like we could do no wrong, man. I don't know if you ever saw that movie, The Legend of Bagger Vance. Have you seen that movie?
I haven't seen it.
Okay, well, the guy's playing golf, and he's trying to teach him how to get into the zone, right? And how to focus down the fairway and to not see the people. When they started chanting Dusty, this is the first time I believe probably in at least 10 years that I had felt this. Everybody in that arena, I could see them, but I couldn't see them. They all just kind of faded away, and I saw Cody, and I saw what needed to be done. I heard them, but I couldn't hear them. I was so focused and in the zone, and there was a few little things that I missed, but it didn't matter, man. It was everything clicked. It was there. It was awesome. They were there the whole time. I bled like a stuck pig, which it's been a while since I've done that, man. So like it was a little excessive, but it was still okay. It was perfect in every way for me. The probably the greatest moment I've ever had in my 31 years in the business.
Now, you said so much there. I want to go back and touch on so many things, but there's a great cartoon that you posted on Instagram today. Dustin posted on his account of like you gigging and then the blood just filling up the entire frame to where you're actually like drowning in the blood from so much blood coming out. I mean, that was quite the gig job of all gig jobs for sure.
Yeah, it was. I had the thumbs up in that little